Chapter 9. Ironman Korea, Ironman Forever. Addiction is a great equalizer. Every Thursday night as we gather around the conference table in the basement of the local church for our Racing for Recovery meetings, I am amazed at the diversity. I see buzz cuts and I see gray hair. I see hip-hop kids and I see guys who look like my accountant. I see nose rings and tattoos. I see high heels and jackets and ties. No class, no race, no gender is excluded. High school dropouts are accepted into our club, and so are PhDs, liberals, conservatives, Republicans, and Democrats. No matter which party is in power, our powerlessness over drugs and alcohol binds us. The difference is that some have managed to find a way to elude its grasp. The purpose of our meetings is to help those who haven't. The difference between our support group meetings and others is that we invite both the addict and his or her family to participate together or on their own. This is the case with many family members who have found in our Racing for Recovery support group meetings a place to talk about and share the challenges they face. Those challenges are enormous, as was evidenced in a recent but not typical meeting. As usual, I start the meeting at 7 p.m., asking everyone to introduce themselves. There are some familiar faces here tonight and some new ones. Donna is new. I'm not sure what to say, she says when it's her turn. Just say something like this, I suggest. I'm Todd. I'm here because I need to be here. I want to be here. I'm glad to be here. I need to be here, says Donna in a meek voice. I want to be here. I'm Jeff, says the guy next to her reassuringly. I've been sober for a year, and I think we can all help each other. I'm so angry I don't want to talk, says CJ. We know CJ. She's been here before. Her adult son is a drug addict, and she can't seem to admit it. Like most parents who love their kids, she keeps giving him second chances. She has become an enabler, which is one of those cute pop psychology labels, but in the world of addiction, it really means something. Last week she told us that she kicked her son out of her house. Now she admits he's back home. Why did you let him back in? I ask as gently as I can. Because I love him, she answers, her angry eyes brimming with tears as she finally looks me in the face. I love him. She stops. Her voice drops as she lowers her head. And I hate him at the same time. There's a silence. Finally, a woman wearing the colors of a motorcycle club, who has accompanied her massive husband with tattoos and a ponytail, turns and speaks to CJ. Listen to me, she says. I lied, cheated, and stole when I was using. I got away with everything. And then I almost lost everything. You've got to love somebody enough to let them hate you. He said he needed the money until Monday, says CJ, now crying. I'm sorry, she adds apologetically, between sobs. There's nothing to be embarrassed about, I tell her. We understand, because we're exactly the same people as your son. We used drugs, we used alcohol, and we hurt a lot of people along the way until we were able to get control of our addiction. It's not fair for you to suffer because of us. An older woman, who is here with her CEO-looking husband, they appear as if they could have been looking for the local country club and stumbled in by accident, turns to CJ. We have 4 sons, she says. 2 of them are addicts. CJ shakes her head in sympathetic disbelief. Then her anguish turns to anger. Why are drugs so prevalent in our society, she asks out loud. What's going on? It's all around us, and it's just getting worse. These kids think it's cool. I politely disagree. Having spoken to enough schools, I think I have a sense of what kids think about this. None of us want to grow up and become addicts, I tell her. But some of us have this makeup. Our brains are wired a little differently. We make bad decisions. There's nothing cool about it. The father of the 4 sons speaks up. My son stole $500 from my wallet, he says. Should I call the cops? It's a robbery, I reply. It's tough, I know, but you have got to make a stand. But I don't want my son to go to jail. I'm not a police officer, I say, but I've been arrested by enough of them to know something about how this works. If it's his first offense, he'll get probation. The bottom line, as I'm speaking to him, but glancing over to CJ, who is still sitting with her head bowed, is that whatever's going on doesn't seem to be working, you've got to change your approach. Suddenly it's 8 p.m. The meeting is 60 minutes long, I say, but if you want to stay for a while longer and talk, we can. Nobody moves. It was a good meeting, I tell myself later as I walk out of the church. I think with pride about Jeff and how well he's doing. I'm impressed and curious about the biker woman and her husband. I'm worried about CJ. They're all on my mind as I maneuver out of the parking lot for the short drive home. They're still in my mind as I pedal down a highway on the other side of the world months later. The meetings, the foundation, the people, the message. They're never far from my thoughts, even when I'm in some far-off place, like Korea, the site of my 10th Ironman in August 2005. We are on Jeju, a 712-square-mile tropical island located about 60 miles southwest off the Korean mainland. I'm tired and wired at the same time. I haven't been able to sleep because of the time difference and the 19-hour flight. Unsure of the effects the local cuisine might have on my stomach, I'm living on metric shake packages, tuna fish, bananas, and peanut butter. I'm also quite frankly not sure exactly why I'm here. Although race organizers have eagerly welcomed my presence at Ironman Korea, their country has virtually no substance abuse. My message of sobriety is lost on a sober people. On top of it all, I'm twisted inside with the usual Ironman jitters. Only now, as we roll up and down a hilly highway along the Yellow Sea, can I begin to relax. I'm wondering how Jeremy's doing. He's one of the only other Americans in this field of nearly 800, mostly Japanese, Koreans, and Australians. Jeremy is 19. It's his first Ironman, and I bumped into him on the beach 2 days before the race. Jeremy, a Texan, knew about me. He'd seen me interviewed on television in Lubbock when I was there for a half Ironman. He had no place to stay, no race plan, no nothing. I let him stay with me and helped him get through the long pre-race checklist of things you need to attend to before an Ironman. Pumping up the tires, packing your salt tablets, getting your gear bags ready, all the little details I learned since my first Ironman in Florida. Helping Jeremy get ready for his race also took the focus off my own pre-race anxieties. But as soon as we hit the water, all the tension dissipated. The water was warm and flat, one of the most enjoyable swims I've ever had in an Ironman. The bike, advertised as a flat course, was anything but. Still, I was now in a rhythm, and as I watched the lush, tropical scenery of Jeju, a popular honeymoon spot for Korean newlyweds, I couldn't help think of just how far away I was from Sylvania, from Melissa and the kids, and also from my other life. It was now 12 years since I had put down that last drink at Granny's. My life was transformed, and although I had found sobriety, I still had not found peace. Who has? Instead of worrying about where to get my next gram of coke, I'm worrying now about balancing the books for our foundation. When I was an addict, I had few responsibilities, and yet still managed to behave irresponsibly. Now 5 people, Melissa and our 4 children, Skylar, Connor, Madison, and Mason, depend on me. It's as stressful for me as it is for every other adult in early 21st century America. But knowing that I don't have to reach for a drink to deal with it makes me proud. As does the fact that my foundation is growing, that my inbox is filled almost every day with emails from people who have been impacted by Racing for Recovery, that I'm reaching new audiences all of the time. From the presentation I gave on recovery alternatives, to the Ohio State Supreme Court, to the talk I gave to the PTA at my daughter Skylar's elementary school. At every hill, as my weary calves pump away at the pedals, I think of what one of our team members, a former addict from Toronto, told me. "You're doing this for the addict that didn't make it last night and won't make it today," he said. It's true, but I also like to think I'm doing it to help some people who will make it, to inspire them to take the fork on the road that is always available to them when they're ready. Some will never be. Many others are. It's a question of time, just like the endless hours of the Ironman. At the bike run transition, friendly people applaud and encourage me in a language I don't understand. I wonder as I begin to jog through this lush island how it is that an entire country, indeed much of Asia, has managed to sidestep one of the great social ills of the West. From what I've learned talking to some of the English-speaking Koreans I've met, Drug and alcohol abuse are simply not tolerated here. Sobriety is part of their culture. With sobriety, anything is possible. That's the motto of Racing for Recovery. Maybe that explains why countries like Korea did the seemingly impossible, transforming themselves in a few decades from rural, almost feudal societies ravaged by war into economic superpowers. They were sober. The hours grind on. I want to stop. I want to go home. I want to throw up, but I keep going. I've learned to manage the pain somewhat, learned to shut out the distracting thoughts. Of course it helps when you get a lift, which comes at the 20-mile mark when suddenly Jeremy, the 19-year-old Texan, bounds onto the course. "Hey, dude, how y'all doing?" he drawls. "Jeremy," I said, delighted to see a familiar face, much less one speaking English. "What happened?" Jeremy explains that he didn't make the cutoff time on the bike. In the Ironman, there are mandatory time limits at each of the transitions. If you're not out of the water by 2 hours, you're out of the race. Ditto with the bike. If you can't finish the 112 miles 10 hours after the start, you get the hook. That's what happened to Jeremy. But he has the resilience and chipper attitude of a 19-year-old. He doesn't seem too fazed by coming all this way for a DNF, which means did not finish, and he's happy to accompany me the last 10 kilometers of the run. As we run into the soccer stadium for the finish, the cheers echoing into the night, the flash bulbs twinkling, I hear my name over the loudspeaker. "Todd Crandall of the United States," the announcer booms in English, "the founder of Racing for Recovery." As I cross the finish line of my 10th Ironman, I think about the first 9. I think about home, and I think, with a bit of a shudder, about the old days. Then I recall something another Ironman said to me at the start of another race. "Todd, there is no place you would rather be today than here." That wasn't true for most of my first 25 years on Earth, but it is now, today and tomorrow, for the next 10 Ironman triathlons, for the rest of my life.